It's a Saturday, November 22nd, 2025. Welcome to the Please Subscribe Show. I'm Cole Spivey, your host, and here is Critter. Critter is an air freshener that hangs on my rearview mirror. He likes to live, laugh, and smell good. It says so on the back. Live, laugh, smell good. That's what he does. He's been there for a while. All right. So, yeah, I didn't get around to rewatching the Fred Rogers Won't You Be My Neighbor documentary. But I did see it before, so I watched it. And I was like, oh yeah, I did see this before. And I might watch it again. It's good for these type of shows and stuff. Oh, and that brings me to giving. Because Fred Rogers would never be able to make it without asking the public and even the government for help, which he did. I think he went before Congress and talked about, was it Kids Corner or the neighbor? I think Fred Rogers' show. Anyway, I have to watch a documentary. It shows it on that. But I don't know. I think every YouTuber is a little bit like Fred Rogers in a way. They at least acknowledge him, you know, from Jake Paul to Adam the Woo. They at least acknowledge him because he was kind of a do-it-yourself guy. Let's see. What else do I need to talk about here? I wanted to mention that. And then I did add a little bit to my novel. You know, you do a little bit on a novel, it goes a long ways. So I did a little add-on monologue about a dream that I had last night. It was a very strange dream, if I could even describe it. But I'm going to leave that for the book. It was a real weird thing. I woke up in a house that was kind of familiar, but then the furniture was different, and I realized it wasn't my house. And then I realized, wait, maybe it is my house, but just the furniture looks different. It was that kind of thing, you know. And then there were people that were coming and going, and it's very strange. So I mutated that a little bit, got that inspiration from that dream to have Jed Wilson talk about a dream that he has. And I'm doing something very different that maybe other books haven't done. I usually go and talk, I usually write my descriptions in past tense. But I decided this one sequence for chapter 86 to write a lot of it in present tense. There is the butterfly. I don't know why yet, and I don't know if I can explain why I chose to do that. But I'll tell you what inspired me. I was listening to, secretly I listen to things that you guys don't know I listen to when I'm driving around. I listened to Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and noticed that everything was in present tense, which makes sense to me for a filmmaker to write a book in present tense. You know, the light turns green. You know, the car is going. But then I listened to some of J.K. Rowling's stuff, and some of her stuff is in present tense as well as past tense. I'm listening to J.R.R. Tolkien. I think I have to listen to him to see if he's present tense or past tense. But dialogue is always in present tense, so that's the most important thing, because the character always is talking in that moment, even if someone is telling the story as if it happened a while back, which is most all the other chapters of Rib, parentheses, or Dog Night Out, close parentheses, - Shepherds of Alaska. So I'm going to leave it in past tense, but I'm going to leave this one chapter in present tense, and then maybe some other stuff with Jed Wilson in present tense maybe too. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a style. It's a style that was inherited in fictional writing around the time James Joyce Ulysses came out. Okay, it was an experimental thing. Okay, we're going to talk in present tense. He turns the wheel rather than he turned the wheel, which you can do either or. And they still have books that are in past tense for description, to describe things. Not that it matters. But in this particular book, it goes from present tense in this segment to past tense. Because then he starts to describe, or I start to describe, Jed Wilson training Droopy and Poopy, if you remember me talking about them, in a drone, in a drone exercise. them flying drones around. And he goes back to past tense to talk about that, because I'm telling the story, so it goes into past tense and then present tense. So I don't know if that's, a thing that you can do, but it's creative writing, so blah 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 blah. Creative writing, blah blah blah. Take it or leave it. TCU is playing, but they're playing in Houston. Other than that, please subscribe. And wait a minute. There's my PayPal. If you like to give to the channel, I was going to do it earlier, but if you like to give to the channel, please do. In the nature of Fred Rogers. I think everything is educational, regardless if it's brilliant or common day. But anyway, this is the portion of the show where you get to watch me go to restaurants, pick it up, and drop it off at your doorstep. And some of you will love it, and then, some of you will go and watch a football game or something. All right, here we go. December 13th, they're going to do Elf at the Will Rogers Auditorium. They just advertised it on that board that is changing constantly right there. And speaking of that, Casa Manana is going to do Rudolph. And that's going to be from November to December 23rd. And then January 23rd to February 15th, they're going to do Wizard of Oz. Yay for Casa Manana. All right, Zap Kitchen, 5:41 arrival, 4 minutes, 1.1 mile for the pickup. All right, I'll give you an example of discrepancy in temperature on what I deal with every day. So we have 66 degrees Fahrenheit, which is in my car. According to Apple, it's 64 degrees Fahrenheit in Fort Worth, with a high of 68 and a low of 50. Now, this app right here is known as WeatherBug, and it says 64 as well. Yesterday, they were saying two different things, with a low of 50. The high of 68. Live a life well lived. All right, so this is where I do selections from the photography collection, Eamon Carter. Done that one, did that one. Now we're gonna do this one. Clara E. Sepra. She's born in 1885, 1975 is when she died. This is a 1924 photo, the harbor in Split, Dalmatia. Gelatin silver print on tissue. Dalmatia must be a place. So, kind of see it right here. Anyway, this is the Eamon Carter Museum photos that they exhibit here in this hallway going towards Zap. And if I go all the way through past Quince, which is the global, you'll see Zap right where this fire thing is right here. And that's Zap. Repositories of American photography in the world. Eamon Carter Museum of American Art in Fort Worth houses more than 45,000 exhibition quality prints made of over 450 photographers that span the history of the medium, from some of the first images made in the United States to contemporary work. One of the words in that message was repository. It's basically just a place or building or receptacle where things are made to be stored. Repository. Looks like this construction I was talking about the other day is cbgbuilds.com, and they're building along University, pretty much right by where I picked up Zap Kitchen area. Probably, most likely, apartments. Zap Kitchen on the way. 558, 6 minutes, 3.7 miles for the delivery. 5:58 p.m. for the arrival. looks like a person walking. So you can see the hand right here. And then the feet underneath. There's the belly. There's the head. Alright, there's the cloud again. It kind of looks like the Michelin Man, or the Michelin Man. It's got a little belly right there. There's his hand. There's one leg. There's the other leg. There's his head. Looks like maybe he has like a little cape. That's what it looks like to me. Like some superhero walking or something. This little heavy set guy walking in the sky. Super well. Tylicious on our way, 6:08, 4 minutes, 1.6 miles for the pickup. It's known as Tylicious. Tylicious.
Your route avoids a road closure and 1. You're on the best route. You will arrive at 6:25 p.m.
Tylicious on its way. 6:24 arrival, 12 minutes, 5.3 miles for the delivery. All right, that's Burnett Plaza. It's the tallest building in Fort Worth. It's 567 feet. The Burnett Plaza building is. There it is right there, Burnett Plaza. 567 feet tall, 173 meters. You can do a conversion or a calculator if you'd like. It's the tallest building in Fort Worth. I have photos of it in my creative writing class, and Bob Reed's creative writing class in Pascal High School, same school that Taylor Sheridan went to. And I took black and white photos of it. At least one, and of the Cherry Street sign, I believe. I think I might still have that photo in an album. And I developed the photo myself with my own hands. My friend, Brandon Carter, mixed the solution, though. He was part of a film group at Pascal High School at the time. It was a secret group that Rob Vasquez, Brandon Carter, Cole Spivey, and a few others belonged to. It continued on after I left and went to Texas Wesleyan University for another year. Brandon Carter would end up at NYU, and we don't know where he's at. He kind of vanished. Vasquez is here as a playwright. No blinker or nothing. So the second building. So there's two buildings. They don't exactly say the entire number schematic. There's that building at Samuels, Franklin Samuels, and there's that one. But that one has the address on it. And I don't know about that one. Corner Bakery on our way. 6:49 arrival, 4 minutes, 1 mile for the pickup. Corner Bakery. Corner Bakery downtown on our way. 7:18 arrival, 22 minutes, 15 miles. Whoa. For the delivery. All right. So we're going to Benbrook. And that's 15 miles. So I didn't remember seeing the amount. I think I remember seeing it close to like 14 or something like that, but what people don't realize when you accept these on the food platforms, almost all of them, because I've worked pretty much almost all of the modern ones from a couple of years ago to now, is they can tip, and I've heard rumor they can tip up to 30 days, but I don't know for sure. Don't quote me on that one. I think that one's just Uber, but they can for sure tip afterwards. Whether they do it or not, I don't know. I wouldn't hold my breath on it, but usually they'll tip before. They can do a thing called added tip. So, but it's, you know, kind of rare. Or maybe the holidays, I don't know. But this goes to Benbrook. So we're going. There's Fort Worth over there. All right, here we go. What we'll do is we'll cut under the Mixmaster, head to 20, and then we'll get on 20. So the next highway will probably be that, or maybe get on the Mixmaster. So you're probably maybe asking, well, hey Cole, how do you plan your shots? You mean my cinematography or my vlogtography? I call it vlogtography, video logtography, as in photography, as in videography. I mean, the argument on cinema, but it's still kind of like cinematography maybe. I don't know. That's my answer. I tell you this, how it started was a feeling that I got. And that was when I was doing Uber a long time ago, and I was still married to my second wife. So I married my first wife, and we only had pets. We only had like a cat, a couple, well, we had 4 cats. One time we had mini cats, but we gave away a lot of the cats. And then my second marriage, when I came back from Maine, I tried to write a novel and lived in Maine for about 17 months and worked in a wood factory and developed slight tinnitus in my right ear. William Shatner has it too. And William Shatner is one of my favorite actors. But I tried to write a novel when I was there called Escape from Maine, because I knew I didn't want to be there after the second week of winter. And it took me 17 months to save up enough just to come back to Texas. And I had to take a hit from it. That was the tinnitus, which is also known as tinnitus. It's a mild ringing in the ear. If you want to know a really good example of what an intense version of it sounds like for a moment, watch Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks movie. Spielberg directed it. And there's a moment on Omaha Beach where there's mortars going off and stuff, and he falls over and everything gets really quiet and he only hears like a ringing. That's an intense version of it. Some soldiers carried it the rest of their life. I think what happened with William Shatner was there was an explosion on set, and it this is what I've read, and it caused the tinnitus to stay. So the mind, it's a mental thing, and it stayed with him. I don't know if he cured it. There's a program in Irving, Texas, that deals with tinnitus cases. But I wrote about it maybe a little bit in Escape from Maine. The character Samuel Camden, who's the protagonist in it, is me. It's a version of me, Jonah Samuel Camden III. I also say it's kind of another version of Jonah and the Whale, because I have a little bit of biblical training, but not a whole lot before I went. I got more training at MacArthur Boulevard Baptist, and then but I just let the book sit on my Fiction Press site, fictionpress.com, under Ash Cole, and there's some biblical references to it. I think I did that. I read through the Bible as I wrote it, just to probably find some type of guide. And Jonah in the Whale was kind of what I think takes him there, because Jonah has to go away to a distant land to become a prophet, basically like a writer, and to warn and to tell people about God. And he decides not to go to this one area, and he tries to flee what God wants him to do, and he gets captured by a whale. Well, it's really a big fish. In the Bible it says a big fish, and he gets swallowed up, and then he gets spit out, and he lands back into the land that he tried to escape, and he has to become a prophet there. It's a long story, and I saw that as kind of a through line through some of the story of Escape from Maine, even though it's only self-published. So when I came back, finally, I said, okay, there's some prophecy there, or there's the book. And I met my wife Angel, and then we had 3 kids together, and that's when I started going to MacArthur Boulevard. I think they talked about Jonah. I think it's known as the Book of Jonah. I've read it. It's not that big of a book. Escape from Maine is probably, I don't know, I remember seeing it as 900 and something pages, 967 pages or something like that. But I started to edit it, and then that's when I met Angel, and then we started a family, so I just let it stay as it is. So this book came from the book that I'm working on, Rib, parentheses, or Dog Night Out, close parentheses, Shepherds of Alaska. It came from when I was working at a pizza shop, Nizza Pizza. I was a delivery person there for about a year, and I just got the idea. Let me check and see if I'm at 7 minutes yet. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, and so that's kind of what I work on my off time, and every once in a while I just put down some information, and it's purely fictional. I call it a fantasy novel. It's kind of an adventure fictional novel. And part of it's in Alaska, so I've never been there. But I get some of my ideas from vlogs, watching video logs, and also just, you know, I've read other authors and stuff. There's a few that have passed through Alaska, but there's more to the story. You'd have to really know why I chose Alaska. And it's not only set in Alaska, it's also set in Fort Worth too. It says Abilene, but we're just going to Benbrook. We'll just spin around this way and hit I-20.
Got 2 sacks of potatoes and creaking joints. Old Rory Brandybug, in return for much hospitality, began to wonder about the ring, especially since last night. No need to worry. But if you take my advice, you will use it very soon. And the next year he gave a party in honor.
There's the box, Gandalf. The old Duke. Look! Bilbo! It's the Purple Lights! Alright, got one at Prima's. 7:32 arrival. 3 minutes, 1.4 mile. For the pickup. Vroom, vroom. Looks like they got the grilled chicken salad. I got a meatloaf that's $19.99. Oh, never ask for the receipt. Prima's on the way. 7:41, 4 minutes, 1.6 for the delivery. They can just do it. All right, Little Caesar on the cart. 7:50, 4 minutes, 1.1 mile for the pickup. Right, duck crossing, so we're gonna watch out. These ducks. There's another one right here. You believe it or not, these ducks can run like right up under your car. Cats certainly can. And listen, when that happens, it happened to me one time in Dallas. It was horrible. I didn't see the results of the cat. He might have just knocked up against the underside of the car and kept on going. I don't know. But the ducks, usually you can see them. There's the pond over there. In most cases, they usually will quack or something like that. And, you know, this guy's playing basketball with a flashlight on his head. He's, they're playing probably horse. I remember that game, Horse. It was a fun game. got to spell H-O-R-S-E. Whoever ended up having to spell it lost. Little Caesar on its way, 8:02, 6 minutes, 1.7 for the delivery. And this must be the Chevron. Goes to a clerk. People order these things and stuff when they're working. Panaderia La Fe, on our way. It's on Hemp Hill. 8:12 arrival, 3 minutes, 1.3 mile for the pickup. All right. So I went through Pandera, and when I arrived at the place, it just kind of went dry. You know, just everything was spinning, meaning that internet was not connecting completely. So I drove literally less than a block, and then it popped back on. So I don't know. Big concrete wall blocking the internet. I don't know. The Pandera is not that big of a building. You know, if you're in a parking garage or something, and I'm dealing with something that has 5G. First, let's go to here. Yeah, 5G with 2 bars. I have had to do it at a few restaurants around here. This one, Pandera, and also there's a Little Caesar right over here too that I have to do it to. I have to go out of the parking lot. I had to do it with my iPhone 11, and I have to do it with the iPhone 17, which I'm surprised. But anyway, it's right over here, so I'm showing you exactly where it's at. Why it was doing that, there's the mystery. Part of the reason for my show. Just a kind of like side note, you know, where's the drainage? I want to park over this way and see if that makes any difference in receiving the internet. All right, 7-Eleven on McPherson, 8:30 arrival, 9 minutes, 6.6 miles for the pickup.
And seems chiefly interested in small news about Frodo's health.
So Gandalf knows things about the Elven Ring. There was these rings made in The Hobbit as well as Lord of the Rings. And they end up possessing the person or the Hobbit or the person that, you know, whoever beholds it, rather than the person possessing it. It'll possess them. But what it ends up doing is it makes them eventually invisible under the dark power, where they just kind of vanish. According to what Gandalf just said. That may be kind of my interpretation, but it's not exactly, you know, I'm trying to learn from Lord of the Rings. But they have this great dark power. Anyway, I'm at the 7-Eleven right here. All right, Pandaria and 7-Eleven on the way, 8:44, 7 minutes, 1.5 miles for the...
Or later, the dark power will devour him.
So Gandalf tells him that the dark power will eventually devour him because the rings they come from this dark power. It's a good inciting incident for the Lord of the Rings. Or at least it brings about a great antagonist. And we'll get to the inciting incident later. So Bilbo kept it to kind of watch over it. And it took him a lot to release it. But Gandalf did not want to touch the ring. So Frodo is kind of a keeper of the ring, which I think sets him off on a quest. Which, when something sets off a protagonist, then they're set off into the inciting incident, which sends them forward to the climax and then the following action and the resolution. This area of the story is the beginning part of chapter 2.
For he gave it up in the end of his own accord, and Frodo himself was in some way reluctant for Gandalf to touch it. Gandalf held it up. It looked to be made of pure and solid gold.
All right, got a McDonald's right off the highway, 9:02, 6 minutes, 2.4 for the pickup. So 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them, and 1 ring in the darkness to bind them. That's basically what the elvish lines on the ring says. It's not exactly what Gandalf says, but very close. And it's right here in Lord of the Rings. It's kind of morality. Now he states, J.R.R. Tolkien says it's not an allegory, and then he states that it's not topical. I think that's what they said, but it's not an allegory. So it's not like Pilgrim's Progress, which John Bunyan wrote, but there are I think there's some parallel aspects to it a little bit. But the one he hung out with was not John Bunyan. That was way before his time. The one he hung out with was C.S. Lewis. They actually knew each other. One was closer to the church than the other. No McRib. Just picking up a delivery. So it asks you if you want a McRib when you pull up. We're back in season. All right, McDonald's on its way, 9:15, 5 minutes, 2.2 miles for the delivery. All right, so what I'm kind of getting from it right now, and you can correct me, there are 9 rings. But, you know, I'm just getting this from the first listen, you know. I think many of them, maybe 7, I'm not sure, but were consumed by dragons and destroyed. 3 still walk. So that means 3 of them are still out there, according to J.R.R. Tolkien in his story, in his fantasy land. And 1 of them is all the dark enemy, you know, the evil one, whoever it is, part of the rules in the darkness needs, which is the one that Frodo is watching over to, I guess, rule them all, you know. So it has much power. Hence, it turned Gollum into the precious, ooh, precious. Turned him into what he was, the slimy. Because I think Gollum was a hobbit before, and then he got turned into this slimy creature. So that's what I'm, you know, getting from it right now. So yeah, there's an eye that's in the actual Peter Jackson movie and, you know, cartoon version too. That's seeking that 1 ring that he wants, which Frodo has. And anyway, we'll get to that later. Alright, I might call this one Lord of the Delivery. So Gandalf explains how the ring was found. And it's kind of the Jonah and the whale story. There was a great fish out in this lake. This guy named Smeagol, I believe he was a hobbit, was fishing. And he catches this great fish to pull it up. And there the ring is either in the fish or something like that. I have to listen to it again, but that's how he found it. He was fishing and the ring was there. I guess it would have been in the fish, or I think remember now it's just hitting me now, I'm sorry. He was looking down in the water and it was in the marsh within the water. I'm gonna listen to it again and see if it was in the fish or not. But regardless, he was fishing and Smeagol found the ring. All right, yeah, I listened to it again. It was in the riverbed. So Smeagol was fishing. It's a great fish. You know, he gets a hold of this fish and it distracts him or whatever. He looks down in the riverbed and he sees the ring. And he's in awe. It's this beautiful ring. It's a gold ring. And he finds it. And that's the ring that they're talking about, the elvish ring that will rule them all. And that the owner, which is this dark overlord, is looking for. That's the eye. If you ever watch it, that he has this eye that looks around, and there's this big beam thing that's going around. It's kind of beaming out, looking for the ring. He wants to regain the ring again, so that he can rule them all. But it's found in a riverbed, and he pulls it up with these weeds, or these reeds.
There, in his hand, lay a beautiful golden ring.
That's the tail end of Gandalf talking about the golden ring. All right, McDonald's on the horizon, 9:32, 1 minute, 0.2. It's a TCU one. All right, McDonald's on the way, 9:57:13, 5.4 miles for the delivery. Okay, so Smeagol returns home to his family, and he's wearing the ring, and they can't see him. He realizes he's invisible. You know, it's weird in my marriages. I would put on my ring, and sometimes I'd take it off to wash my face, or maybe to work in the garden. We had a garden in this one house that I had. I'd always think about that, always. And I never read J.R.R. Tolkien's book. I'm listening to it now for the first time. One of my uncles read it and knows it well. He's not looked upon in my family in a very nice light. He was a traveler. He hung out with the rainbow people, but meaning he was kind of a hippie. But he read it all and understood it, and it's a tough one. You have to kind of pause and analyze it. That's kind of what I'm doing. But yeah, so Smeagol finds out that his family can't see him, and he finds out that it's invisible. So Smeagol was the first to get a hold of it. Why it ended up in the riverbed, you have to read the whole entire thing to probably figure that out. But J.R.R. Tolkien, and so I think I've heard some people say Tolkien, was a mad genius, like on the level of probably like Albert Einstein or something. I mean, I've heard him speak. He has interviews. There's interviews on YouTube, and he was incredible. He loved language. He loved to invent things. He was kind of an inventor writer. So he liked to invent words and these people, these hierarchy of hobbits. There's different types of hobbits. There's different types of elves. There's different types of orcs. There's different type of fighters. you know, and all of this stuff he invented as he wrote it, and somehow kept up with it. And probably just basically with tobacco. I think he smoked a tobacco pipe. And we all know that Smeagol became Golem. He began to gurgle when he had talked. And he began to sound like this. And, you know, my precious. That was originally Smeagol. Going into Overton Woods. A story about John Stevens, if you go back to my other vlogs, is about this woods. And also Alison Ball and Jenny Chowning. And JQ, which I never utter her name. Just joking. And her friend. She had a friend that lived out here. But anyway, I told the story once in a vlog. I don't like to retell it all over again. It's just a story about these Overton Woods here in the neighborhood in Fort Worth. Last time they had cones. If you watched the vlog, there were cones right down here. Now they don't have the cones there. Yeah, because I remember those balloons. Because I hit one of the cones. Not too badly though, just kind of bumped into it. It is good. Sound of a train inspired so many writers what it could sound like, almost like a cry of some kind of dark beast, a lost ghost. All right, Papa John's on West 7th, 10:22, 6 minutes, 1.9 mile for the pickup. Yeah, there's definitely a rodeo event going on. I had no idea. We'll have to pass through that. Let's see. Or maybe it's a Dickies event. I'm thinking probably the rodeo. But it's just a guess. I did go by and drop off some sliced prime rib from Risky's downtown. And that looked like a rodeo rider, you know, someone that would ride something like a bronco or something, and there was a lot of activity in the equestrian center and the smell of manure everywhere, so there were horses everywhere. But there must be something, I think, going on. I know Dickies advertises it constantly. There's a lot of stuff. This area has got a lot of things that happen, like concerts come through here, rodeos, fairs. It's heavy in the art world. I performed as an actor here at W.E. Scott. I actually was honored to be able to be Christian. Well, actually, I played Apollyon here at W.E. Scott there. Also known as, well, yeah, we called him Apollyon, but it was Apollyon. We had different names for him, but he's a representation of basically the dark evil one, you know, the dark prince. In John Bunyan's allegory, I was able to play him right before my honeymoon, and then later on we took the whole Christian drama group to Dallas at the Brownlee, and I was able to play Christian there, which I think Stephen played. I think he played him very well here at W. Scott. You'll figure out his last name. It was Miller, Stephen Miller, I think is what he went by. He was an actor and teacher out in Dallas. He played the original Christian in the John Bunyan one. This guy right here. He played the original Christian and W.E. Scott's version. We took it there and I played Apollyon. Talking about the dude about the mobile pizza dream. Keep encouraging him to do it. Papa John's on our way. 10:39, 10 minutes, 2.8 miles for the delivery. So they all right, I'm to go to the Justin Tower. All right, I'll look for Terrell and Henderson. Thank you.
The front of the building, it's gonna be this building here, but it's gonna be the front.
Okay. All right, thank you. So the GPS looks like it may be wrong. All right. That was not completely easy. I had to circle around like 3 times. That was the ground floor of Justin Tower for a bunch of nurses. Okay. 10:56, 3 minutes, 0.5 for Chiba toasted. It's actually Chiba Hut toasted subs. And they want to legalize marinara too, if you want to kind of be funny about it. I don't want to get all political about it. I really, I don't know. Not in high school anymore is all I'll say on that one, but I don't see how adults and these family members and people in the school district and, you know, I don't want to get in the whole Chiba Hut toasted. They've got like Cheech and Chong on the wall and stuff like that. You know, whatever. But according to federal law, they don't, you know. But anyway, I don't know. We're picking that one up. Chiba Hut toasted subs. And I'll show you what I mean. Get it? This drawing is like, it's murals and that. All right, Chiba Hut toasted subs on the way. 11:24 arrival, 19 minutes, 14 miles for the delivery. Thanks, appreciate it. Well, I got this protein drink from Bolt House Farms that I like. And it's got a lot of vitamin C and things like that. So that's probably all I'm going to get. It's like a $3 drink. From Winko's, employee-owned company. Linda used to work for them too. It's really fun because they're open 24/7. I gotta get going really quick. Just looking at some of the stuff they have. They even have a lot of movies and stuff. They have 5 more minutes for the self-checkout. So, I wonder if their avocados are 63 cents. Yeah, the avocado I got is, I have an avocado though, but it's kind of ripe. I'll usually go over here, and I think I had maybe split this show into two. And they usually have it right here. Oh, $2.98. Okay, vanilla bean maybe? Yeah, the vanilla bean has 30 grams of protein, and it's got the vitamin C. If you look at it right here, vitamin D. Further down there. Yeah, it's there. Vitamin D. Alright, they're 290 calories, so they fit in my diet. Vitamin C. The only thing is the sugar is a little high, but I get them every once in a while. 110% on the vitamin C. Alright, that's my Winko vlog. Okay. That's 78 cents. I made the self-checkout the last minute. Oh yeah, thanks for letting me through. And that's one of my favorite movies is Best in Show with Christopher Guest. My favorite part is when Eugene Levy goes, "Honey, I'm gonna walk Winky." I always think of that when I go to Winko. Even though it's Winko and Winky, but I think it's one of the greatest comic lines of all time. "Honey, I'm gonna walk Winky." Winky was a dog, but he also had two left feet. You got to see the movie. Not the dog, but Eugene Levy's character. Just, I don't know, I always think of Winky and Winko. I thought it was funny. So hopefully I can get this all up in one show. I know that I'm the shadow master. Here, just drive around until we get to the better lighting. But I try. Whoa! You're in my steering wheel. I came up with this shot, so if you try to take it, putting the phone on the steering wheel, I may send you a comment saying that was my idea. That's a little bit better. There we go. See, that's the steering wheel. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get it up in one show. If I have to go two shows, but we're not gonna be able to do Today's Kitty is tonight. Where does Today's Kitty come from? Well, it's loosely kind of inspired by David Lynch's Today's Number Is. Unfortunately, David Lynch has passed away. I'm gonna dedicate this protein plus vanilla bean drink to him because I think he might like these. I know he liked quinoa, and he ate the protein bars and things like that. He was kind of an eccentric. But I like Today's Number Is. And it was funny. For me, you know, and today's number is 3. The one thing I don't do with Today's Kitty is I don't say, well, what will tomorrow's kitty be? You know, he always said, what will tomorrow's number be? And what do I mean by every cat has a number? Well, I say in it, I say, well, here we go with today's kitty. There's one kitty, 9 lives, and each life has a number. I don't really believe that each life necessarily has a number because a life shouldn't be compared to a number. I think a life is a life, but each cat's life, okay, has a number if they have 9 lives. So Kitty has 9 lives, and each cat life out there has a number. Numbers 1 through 9. I don't know. I just threw it together. And then I don't know what number Kitty is on. It's Edmund, but if you love cats, we have a cat, you can give PayPal. Although I do this now for PayPal, and then also a thumbs up, kind of kill two birds with one stone. So give me a thumbs up, and then there's a PayPal. Whether I remember to put it there, it's always in my descriptions, and you can always give to the channel. We don't have a lot of givers, but I think in the future we might. This is the Bolt House Farm. It's got 110% vitamin C, but it's also 30 grams of protein. So I just kind of threw that in there. But, so we won't have time for today's Kitty Is. And usually I do today's Kitty Is with a little ramen noodle cooking show, because ramen noodle's cheap. I like to dress the ramen noodle up. I would like to eventually, maybe in the future, switch over to a different style ramen noodle. Yeah, I bought some ramen noodle today at Winco. I bought this ramen noodle, the picante one, for 30 something cents. And then for sometimes on the protein, I do, you know, tuna, which my cat likes to lick the residue off of that. But do I recommend you go out and try it? I think you can lose a little bit of weight. Not completely, but you could, because it's like a soup. You know, you're eating like a soup, and people that eat soup, sometimes they can lose weight. I don't know. I mean, it could be better just to boil the vegetables. But I don't think there's anything wrong with boiling vegetables and maybe adding tuna or adding chicken or adding something to it. If you want to add noodles, that's fine. But am I saying go out and eat that all the time? I don't know. If you have to live on a budget, you wouldn't have much of a choice. But I don't know. Spaghetti is about the same, only it's probably a little higher in the carbs, maybe, you know, the longer spaghetti. But I do calorie counts and everything, so this was 290 calories. And usually a whole package, which is usually serves two, is 340 calories on these, which are the picante. I think they're like at 370 calories. So it's, you know, it's a way to count the calories. It's a way to kind of do that. Is it better than fast food? Well, I guess. I mean, you know, you're chugging down Burger King all the time. I think what happened with me was I just kind of went on this, like, eating donuts and lots of hot dogs, and I got to the point where I just finally woke up and I just said, you know, I'm just going to try to give up fast food and no more soda, you know. So I've been really good. I haven't touched any soda. I almost bought a Red Bull the other night, but I at the last minute I said no. And I was told in the theater, when I started off in college theater and also community theater and stuff like that, people do, you know, backstage, they talk about losing weight, or they talk about, like, you know, I'm going to lose weight for this role, or I'm going, you know, and a lot of times they always talk about watching your salts and your sugars are like a really good thing, watching those, you know, closely. A lot of things have salt in them and everything like that, and a lot of things have sugar in them. So you watch those two things and bring them down. It does help. But I'm not going to say any numbers or anything like that until later on. And then we'll talk numbers. Gotta go. Okay. Got a message. All right. I gotta head back. I'm gonna listen to Lord of the Rings and head back. I've been around, I guess, actors, community theater actors, and some well-known. I stood shoulder to shoulder with Jim Carrey in The Majestic. I'm very, very proud of that, even though I'm only a little blurb in it. But, you know, that was kind of the peak of my acting thing. It was like, I did all this community theater, I did all this college theater. I said, okay, I'm going to run off to Hollywood. It's like 2000, 2001. Next thing you know, I'm standing right next to Jim Carrey backstage on a Frank Darabont film. And then I, you know, lay way down the line, I end up on YouTube. But that was kind of one of the highlights before I took off to the actor studio, where Robert De Niro is trained, and Robert Duvall, and Marlon Brando, and James Dean. And I got to sit right next to James Lipton, which is still a big deal. But back then, James Lipton was more of a critic, where Jim Carrey was, like, you know, standing next to Jerry Lewis, or standing next to, well, you know, with his ability, like Marcel Marceau, or standing right next to the greatest comedian of all times, which he certainly will be put in that category. And it, you know, the man, the way he works is pure beautiful. At least on the Majestic, watching him work, it was just, I've never seen anything like it. But that was kind of the highlight of you know, of a big peak, or I'm thinking it was, I don't know. But I was writing then. I would go back to my apartment in Long Beach and I would sit there and write these screenplays. I think I started working like a novel. I just have this thing where I just, you know, it takes off, and it kind of scares me a little bit. But the vlog is something I can see, and I can kind of put up there, and it's publication. There's a little bit of writing involved each time, but I check in, and I know, you know, I listen to these successful vloggers, and I know I don't talk like them, and Linda says I'm all over the place, and maybe I am. But, you know, some of my windshield wiper vlogs have got a lot of views. Some of this stuff, you know, but I see these other vloggers, like, I'll just throw out some names, I always do, like Adam the Woo. He gets like 30 or 40,000 views each time. I watch Grandma Life Collective today. They're always on top of it. So sometimes people get on top of their game, and they know their forte, you know, if that's a word I can use, like a forte, you know, they know what works for them. And I'm just kind of representing freedom and my own creative right, and going forward with it. So, you know, if I'm drinking this, I'm just, you know, here, this is Bolt House Farms, this might help you, you know, or something, or maybe, you know, I don't know, I'm using this light for lighting, you know, it's not anything hard to do, but there's a lot of performers, and there's a lot of people that are majorly incredible. There's probably comedians out there that have the same level and ability that someone like Jim Carrey has, that's probably going to be discovered on YouTube. You know, so it's basically a public site. It's an amazing thing. But I'm amazed, you know, I'm amazed that I've lived the life that I've lived. I'll say I'm 52 years old, and I got to do the things that I got to do. You know, I got to go to Hollywood. I got to, you know, study at the actor studio. I got to come back and write these novels that nobody really knows about, and play this music. We did try to start off a band. We tried to make it, but I think Linda, and I pray for her, you know, I pray for her sobriety, because I mean, she could drink Janis Joplin under the table, and that's a bad thing to say, but no, she probably could. Janis Joplin, yeah, she probably, I wouldn't say that Janis Joplin probably, they probably would have been pretty good friends. Janis Joplin had connections to Texas, but I do pray for her sobriety, and I'm a praying person, and I think it works. Faith healing. I think she's gotten a little bit better, you know, and everything. You know, nobody's perfect. I mean, I could be too big of a critic on life lessons, you know, about sobriety and things like that. But I'm for that kind of life. And you know, I was very lucky, because I went to a place where it's very dangerous. Like River Phoenix didn't make it out of Hollywood. You know, Jim Belushi didn't make it out of Hollywood. They didn't make it out safely. They made it out either, you know, pretty much in a coffin. Drugs is a very serious thing. So by the time I launched out to Hollywood, that was something that I stayed away from. You know, I didn't see any of it. I didn't go around it. And luckily, you could kind of tell that it was there. But you know, I'm anti-drug to the point where I even question taking an aspirin. But I do take aspirin sometimes. But you know, I'm just fortunate to be here. And I guess this is like 11 minutes. Yeah, I better go. All right, and so I got my head back, and I'll talk to y'all later. And we'll see Kitty. You know, go back and feed Kitty. All right.
Why?
There's Carvana. Ordering online in the car. There's Kitty. All right, Kitty, you're gonna get food, but we're not gonna be able to see it because I'm cutting today's kitty is tonight, okay? No offense. All right. Remember, it's part of your contract. All right, Kitty. Today's kitty is. Here we go with today's kitty. There's one kitty, 9 lives. Each life has a number. Each kitty has a number. Numbers 1 through 9. Swirl the leftover cat food. Actually, this isn't leftover, this is fresh cat food. And pick a cat food. Today's kitty will be having fancy feast. Ocean whitefish and tuna. Feast and gravy. Grilled. That's right, kitty. You're spoiled. You get the good stuff. I already fed the outdoor cats. They have leftovers. And I'm having leftover pizza. Here we go. 1 scoop and another one. Here we go. And I'm gonna have some leftover pizza. Just joking, I'm not having leftover pizza. I'm having some nachos, avocado, spinach. Don't forget sour cream. And this avocado turkey. Italian red flat onion, yellow bell pepper with peppercorn gourmet spread. Don't forget sour cream. I'm skipping the ramen noodle tonight. Sandwich with red pepper and baby Swiss. And my sizzling hot nachos. Red pepper. Let's try one. Let's try one that's all decorated. Got a little piece of avocado on there. A little bit of this right here. And more avocado. Putting some of that on there. Let's give it a try. As an actor, you always want to work around food. So you know, eventually you don't fear it. More pepper. And a little more pepper here. Because food creates emotion. We'll try this one right here. And more sandwich. we go. I'm on. Let's see. I was just thinking about Peter Jackson. Lord of the Rings, interesting. Must have read my mind. They have news on Saturday. Sometimes the news is pretty good. They win Emmys and stuff like that. Kitty, I know. I know you're upset. I know you don't want to be laying here while I'm editing. Be careful with your paws.